Alex Hormozi dropped a masterclass on email marketing revealing how he gets the highest ROI from emails in his business. What I mean by he revealed everything, I mean he revealed everything including his email principles, his strategies, and his execution. Plus, also we will get into some more juicy tactical stuff like when is the best day to send your emails, what are the best times, and how you should structure your calls to action. The crazy part about all this is that even I, as someone who's generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in info sales just through email marketing, even I learned a lot from his insights, and I even uncovered some $1 million secrets behind his strategy. Now, as we all know that there is a lot of email marketing advice, okay, out there that is just complete fluff. In this video it's different, okay. In this video we're going to break down Alex Hormozi's no BS $100 million strategy, including the processes and the system for utilizing email marketing that just actually works. So unless you hate generating hundreds of thousands of dollars for cheap, okay, this video is not for you. Let's not talk too much, let's get right into the clips.
Over the last 90 days, we spent just under 10 million emails from acquisition.com, and we generate tens of millions of dollars across our portfolio using email itself. And in this video, I'm gonna break down emails that I've sent, and I'll give you the 10 tactics that have worked very well for us so far. First things first, here's why I think you should do email. I was a moron and decided to not email for the vast majority of my life because I hate money, apparently. And so the average ROI for email, depending on the source you look at, is between 35 and 45 return. So that means that for every dollar you spend on software or putting time into your email, you can get like $45 back. Like imagine if there was a stock investment that you could 50x in a week. Well, that's kind of like what email is, and people still don't do it, myself included. And part of the reason that making money on email is more profitable is because you actually already spent the time to acquire this contact. And so in a lot of ways, email is just follow-up. And so you spent the cost to acquire the lead, now you're just reminding them that you exist. And so basically the only real cost is just whatever software you use and whoever or whomever you may have to pay in order to write the emails. That's pretty much it. And so one email writer can send an email to 10 million people, and that is a tremendous amount of leverage that you get in your business that a lot of people ignore. On top of that, email is one of the most consumed media platforms, and it hasn't died down. So 61% of people check their email multiple times per day. 20% of people check it multiple times per hour. It has almost the same consumption rate as social media in terms of how engaged some of the users are of people reading their emails every single day. And what's cool about email is that it's actually uniform across age groups. And so you can see between 15 and 24, 25 and 44, 45 and 64, and 65 plus, pretty much everyone, 90% plus, or 84 at the very end bracket there, read email all the time. If you're gonna master something, it's one that transcends age groups. And I'll bet you, even though we don't have the metric, it transcends countries as well. I would bet you that UK people probably respond similar to US people, probably even respond similar to Chinese people in terms of their email consumption. And I know just because I've gone back and forth with Chinese providers and warehouses and things like that, they're pretty responsive on email too. And so a massive, very invisible platform. And so as I think about email, the objective of the email has one of two purposes. One is to increase the likelihood that this person purchases in the future, or that they purchase. That's fundamentally it. And so it basically has the exact same objectives as content. And so it's just a different form of content consumption, except where you can guarantee that you get delivery. Whereas when you make a post, the algorithm decides who gets to see it. When you send an email, basically your past performance determines whether or not they get to see it. And there's a couple of little tricks to make sure you get in the right email inbox and not get in the promo tabs. We'll go over some of that stuff. But big picture, you actually have the list and you send it directly to them. And if you're embarrassed, by the way, that you haven't sent email, then worry not, because I am too, and I will show you the first email I sent to my list just not that many months ago. That's obviously within acquisition.com. The portfolio companies send emails all the time, but I hadn't sent anything to Mozi Nation. And so this was it. So I started with subject, is this on? And I just said that because I thought it was funny. I started with a quote that I like a lot, which is, it only takes 20 hours of focused effort to get proficient in any skill. The problem is most people waste years before they start the first hour. So I've been making content for 4 or 5 years now, and I had yet to send an email. And so that quote of mine felt rather appropriate for myself. The thing is that I think you can model something like this, like if it has been a minute for you, like you're like, I should have been emailing. It's okay, you can start whenever you want, and the day you start is the day you start getting 45 plus returns on the time and money you put into it. So
Okay, so that's real. And on the subject line case where he said that he wrote the subject line because he thought it's funny, for him, he's a marketer, so he's used to it. But for someone like you, always that in your subject line, you have to give people some type of intrigue or some type of curiosity so that they can open your email all the time. What works best for more opens, for you to get more opens, is when you include some benefit or you tell people a clear promise that they can get from the email. That gets the most open, and if you use that, you're gonna get more open rates to your email. So just because it's funny, it doesn't mean that you get more open rates. But for him, he's a marketer, so when he wrote that subject line, it's short and it's clear, and somehow it shows what is inside the email, right? It just creates that type of tension so that people, they can open the email and understand exactly what is in the email, right?
I said, after 13 years of business, I'm finally going to write you. I know, wild. The fact that it's taking me this long is doubly stupid considering people think that I'm an author. And part of the reason I actually didn't send emails before is that I'm so selective with your attention. I don't want to waste it ever. And so I would rather not send you something at all rather than send you something bad. That's number one. Number two is that I'm very picky with written word. And so if you ever see written word across any of my social channels, believe it or not, I wrote it. It either came out of my mouth or I physically typed it. It's directly from me. Because for some reason, I feel like written word carries more oomph than anything else does. And it's probably why even in like legal discourse, if you have written proof and contracts are legally binding, it's because it's written. There's something powerful about words. I basically break this whole down and say, hey, I'm starting Hormozi Money Minute, which is basically the name of my newsletter. So my whole goal was, how do I provide value in under 60 seconds so that someone can read it and immediately get something that they can use in their business. And so my goal is that I hope I pay for myself with every email that I send, and I also include one thought that's improved my life. And so for here, if I were to like apply this to this, it'd be like, okay, this is kind of the thought that improved my life. And this one, I don't have a tactic that improves their business, but maybe just reminding them to send emails would be the first thing. But everyone after that are officially Hormozi Money Minutes do. So let's dive into those. Now let's talk about different tactics. So first things first, everybody wants to talk about how much you can make from email, but no one talks about unsubscribing, right? No one wants, it's like the dirty other, oh yeah, people unsubscribe. Every time you send a communication out, there's gonna be people who unsubscribe. And I don't see unsubscribing nearly as negatively as other people do. And I'll explain why. When I look at our people who show up to workshops, a lot of times they are people who unsubscribed. So it's not an insult. It's like they know who I am and they're in. I don't see it as a negative per se. Also, every single day, thousands of people unsubscribe from my Instagram, thousands of people unsubscribe from YouTube, but I just have more people who subscribe. And so I just see the process of advertising is letting people know about your stuff. And so if someone unsubscribes, they absolutely know about you and your stuff. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to buy. It just might not mean that that form of communication or that particular inbox they opted in with is the one that they want to use. Fine, no big deal. So instead of trying to hide it, it's like probably if I see a brand try and make unsubscribing hard, I hate them. And so I have always tried to do the opposite of that. I think number one is that you want to make unsubscribing easy. Don't keep people captive. And let me explain by that. I don't want to keep sending emails to an uninterested segment of my list because it'll actually make my domain deliverability go down long term. By sending it for vanity metrics of, look, I sent more emails, I actually decrease the likelihood that the people who do want to read my emails actually get them. And so that's why you want to make unsubscribing easy, because if you make it hard, they might not unsubscribe, but then they go dormant, which is actually worse for you. So make it easy. I want to be real with you for a second. If you haven't sent email or you really don't send often, like once every 6 months or something, the first time you send an email, you're going to have a higher unsubscribe rate than normal. And that's okay. I call it shaking the trade. It's basically like pulling forward churn. It's the same thing if you correspond with customers who are on a recurring revenue business and you haven't been emailing them or haven't been reaching out to them, you will always get more churn. You'll get next month's churn and this month's churn all at once. And so the highest churn I ever had was on the first email I ever sent. And so it was like just over 1%, which is crazy, right? But now it's like 0.42 unsubscribe rate per email, which is fine. As long as we grow higher than that between emails, that's a good ROI. And it's like, you have to take the logical extreme here. If you are unafraid to email because you don't want to get unsubscribes, why do you have emails to begin with? It's kind of like saying, well, I don't want to post content because then people would stop following me. It's like, well, the only point of them following you is to advertise your stuff. And so if the logical extreme of this is just never do anything, then that's probably not the right conclusion. Number two, and this.
Well, so here's the thing before we go to number two, okay? So including what he means, right? Including your unsubscribe button in the email is very important, because if you don't give people the option to unsubscribe and they do not want to be on your list, or yeah, on your list, on your email list, what ends up happening is that they will mark you as spam, so you will get a lot of spam complaints, which will lead your emails not reaching in the inbox, right? It will be like you're spamming people who do not want to get your email. So including the unsubscribe button in your email is very important, because it removes the people who are not the people that you want, like they are not um the right audience that you want, and it leaves the right audience within the email list, which you'll get more sales and more revenue in general, right? So that's it.
This one is a little bit more advanced, but very worth it. So HubSpot ran a really cool research study where they saw that they had an increase. So already insane ROI for email. They had a 791% increase in ROI from email from one thing, which is people who segmented their lists got way higher returns on email, which should be somewhat unsurprising, right? Like if you send the right emails to the right people, then they will be more likely to buy your stuff. So if I send a beginner email to a list of advanced people, they'll be like, this is not for me. And to the same degree, and also it doesn't have anything to do with the email, it just might not be right for them. And to the same degree, if I send an advanced thing to people who don't have a business or want to start a business, then they're gonna be like, this doesn't apply. And so it's way less about how good the email is and so much more about who's getting it. And so segmenting the list is basically like if you have any qualifiers on your opt-in, so like revenue, or if they have a business or don't have a business, which are some of the ones that we have in our opt-in process, this allows us to send content that's more applicable to those people. And so when we have our list, we say, oh, let's just send this to the 500K plus, let's just send this to the 5 million plus, let's just send this to the 0 to 100K. And so a lot of people want to lie because they think they're going to get like a better experience if they go up, but like you're just going to get stuff that doesn't apply to you. So just be honest when you're putting your info in. So let me pull up a sample email so we can break down the structure so you can think about it. Now, to be clear, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to explain what I was doing, and if it's useful for you, great. Number one, on the subject heading, I thought a lot about this because on some hand, there's a lot of internet marketers and digital guys who, you know, they split test the hell out of their subjects. And I thought about this more as like a podcast where it's like podcast episode X and then it just keeps going, because my thought, I'll explain, was if I can basically develop the brand of Mosey Money Minute to be very strong, then eventually we'll get to the point where, independent of what I have after Mosey Money Minute, when people know that they always get value in the past when they read it, they'll just click. Going back and forth on this, I was like, I want to build the brand of my email to be strong. And so on one hand, you could say, well, if they know it's from you, then that could be the brand, but we send other emails as well that are not Mosey Money Minute. So I wanted Mosey Money Minute to have its own kind of like little space in someone's mind. That was a choice I made. You could obviously just have your subject be proof over promise. That's your call, but that's why I decided to stick with it, and that's what I've done. So right off the bat, I think about everything in terms of feedback cycles and reward. And so I want to reward every action that someone takes. And so if someone first reads the email, then if they've been rewarded in the past for Mosey Money Minute, they'll click and they'll open it. Now I need to reward them for that. So a lot of people think about behavior as what happened before that triggered someone to do something. But that's actually not how behavior works, and that's been proven. The way behavior works is that you did that thing because you did it another time in the past and were rewarded for it. So if you want to see why someone does something, look at what happens after they do it. Because when you do a behavior, you do it to get something to change or to improve your life in some way, right? Words I like, I start the email here because I want someone, even in less than the time it takes to read the email, to immediately be rewarded for.
Okay, so I want to just say a little bit on here. Okay, so what he's trying to say here is that he's creating trust using the subject line. So whenever people see the subject line that he sends, they immediately trust him because they already opened the email like a couple times and they got an instant reward from the email, right? So that subject line creates trust, and after it creates trust, they always get an instant reward, which is value from the email. So they will keep like sticking around so that they can get more value from the same emails that he is sending out, which in return he gets people to opt in on his offers, get more sales and stuff like that. So the more you create trust, the more people like feel understood, and the more people buy your stuff, right?
Clicking and opening. For me, a quote or tweet is something that's in one glance, they can be rewarded for taking the first action. That's the first thing I'm doing. Now the next thing is that I have kind of the meat of my email. Now for me, my meat of the email, I keep under, I think 200 words because it's roughly a minute. And so that's been kind of like the Mosey Money minute kind of promise. That being said, we also send other emails that are really long. So Layla sends emails to the kind of like the most qualified businesses on the list that we have that, you know, generate the most revenue, and hers tend to be a little bit longer, and that's because she tends to teach more via story. I have a little bit more like tactical style. Her emails do great too. So I want to make sure that this doesn't seem like rule of law. I want to explain why I wrote my emails this way. So we have our tactic, and I very clearly, there's a lot of times where I'm like, man, I could put this other thing in. One concept, just keep it on one thing. Because as soon as you start, you're not writing a book here. It's just what is one very clear thing, and I just keep cutting it down until it's like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And so you want to basically introduce a problem or a condition that makes the solution viable. So no matter how good your product is, a stranger won't believe you because you're biased. Okay, so that's a problem. If strangers don't believe you, okay, so the easiest way to overcome this is overwhelming social proof. Okay, there's a solution. But now, how do I do that? And so then I put a little extra line. And so few businesses do it, here's an easy tactic to display tons of proof you already have but aren't showing. This is one where they already have all this stuff, they're 6 inches away from gold, and we just need to cross the barrier. And so I just said, cool, if you're brick and mortar, print out every 5-star review, screenshot it across all review sites online, then frame it with $1 frames you can get from the dollar store, cover your lobby floor to ceiling with them, and see the PS statement for a real world example. So that also, and that's a little bit of foreshadowing, I'll show you, for something else that we do in the email. Now, if you're online, then you read the one for online. After that, it's like, cool, I delivered my 1 minute of value that any business owner can immediately use in their business, because almost every business has a few 5-star reviews on some platform that they can immediately repurpose to get strangers to believe them more, and then ultimately sell more stuff. I have my little sign off, and underneath I have a CTA. So if, hey, if you're scaling your business, go here. If you want to start a business, go here. So this goes to school. This goes to acquisition.com for workshops, because that's for businesses that we're not necessarily going to do a deal with. Or
Okay, so another thing is that it doesn't matter how long your email is, but what has proven to work for me, and for me testing in like time and time, short emails work better than long emails, but both work well if you understand exactly what strategy you're going with, and if you understand your audience well, and if your copy is great, right? But also the other thing is that adding links to your emails, do not add a lot of links to your emails, because this can also trigger the spam filters. So if you can add two to 3 links, that's okay. And yeah, just make sure that your domain is safe and all that, the reputation, the records, the domain records are set up, authentication records are all set up. If you're good with that, then it's good. Okay, yeah, so that's it.
maybe we'll do one in the future. It's just an easy way for us to meet them. So it's just like, cool, come fly out, we'd love to meet you. Okay, so PS, I always have a PS statement in every email, because beyond the headline, it's the most read part of the email. So not having a PS statement is PS stupid. So have one. The thing is that I think about this as, again, what have they just done? So they have now read my email. So I want to reward them for reading my email, and I want to encourage people to click, because one of the things that I think a lot of people try not to do is try to get people not to click or send too many links. So sending too many links is a bad thing, so that's true. In terms of getting someone to click, you want to regularly get people to click, because you want your audience to be rewarded for clicking in general. And so if you have a blog that you send out, don't put the blog in the email. Put a really interesting nugget from the blog in the email, and then click there so that they can read it. And so you're training the audience and rewarding them. Ideally, if the blog is good, they will do it again. Just like Hormozi Money Minute, if your blog is good, it'll increase the likelihood they do it again. If your blog is bad or emails are bad, it'll decrease it. And so this is why I see this very much as content, because it has to be good. And think about the alternative scenario. If you have 4 good emails and then 1 terrible one, it can, just like that one was just so useless that they're like, I'm not going to do this again. I would rather just extend a period of time where I haven't talked to somebody and just make sure that what I send them is good. And long term, if people don't open your emails, then you'll eventually end up in the promo tab, which is kind of like email death. Like no one ever really checks that, even if you have good stuff. And so you want to obviously get people to read your emails quickly. So that's one email. Now let's talk about a different tactic. So mobile optimized design. So right now, 60.
So the mobile optimized design, it works for e-commerce, but also if you're in info product, it works too, if you're using like softwares like MailChimp and stuff like that, right? You just have to make sure that you keep them customized for mobile, for people who are reading their emails in mobile phone, which is most people, right?
60% of global internet traffic is mobile devices. And what's crazy is that a lot of people's emails are not optimized for mobile viewership, and that's where a lot of people are actually going to be reading your thing. And so you want to make sure that you look at your emails on a desktop format and on a mobile format so that they display the right way for the viewing platform they're being viewed through. When you do that, all you do is, first objective of email, increase the likelihood they convert. And this is especially true if you had images to your emails. This is more like e-commerce does a lot of this. That's where like images can get totally messed up, not look good. It just looks unprofessional and totally plummets the click-through rates for your emails. Number 4, consistent layout / format. I tend to love templates. I love to just figure out what works and then do it over and over and over again. So in the beginning, you might experiment a little bit, but if you see that a certain format gets more responses or more click-throughs, then it's like, cool, let's just do that over and over again. And so you'll notice that the Hormozi Money Minutes more or less have the same format. They have the thing, they have the content, they have the CTA, and then they have some sort of PS statements, or the CTA is the PS statement. But that's included in every single one of them. I want people to know what they're going to get. Think about McDonald's. It's like, I don't want any surprises. I'm expecting a Big Mac, I want fries, I want my Coke. And so today's Big Mac, fries, and Coke is different than yesterday's, but I don't want it to be different. It's not the same burger, but I want it to still be just as good. So let's rock on to the second one. Same thing, Hormozi Money Minute. 391% increase in sales from one change. Okay, that's interesting. I'd be like, I would click that. So words I like, so this is the immediate reward, ideally for them clicking. So there's like, cool, I got some value from that. And I just use tested stuff because I just use the tweets that I know that people have shared the most. And so hopefully also, you might get people who share your newsletter or your emails as well, which is kind of the point. Now, after that, I've got my content bucket. Again, this is under 200-ish words. I just try to remind people that I keep this promise. Like, that's all, kept this under a minute, awesome. Then I have my CTA, and then I have my PS statement. And so you'll notice this very common theme. So similar subject, reward them for that, meat of the content, CTA, PS statement. You can alter, like where the CTA is, where the PS statements, like these things I think you can alter around, because a lot of times I just make memes for my PS statement. I don't think there's any science around it. I just think it's fun. You can do that, or you can obviously have your PS statement be your CTA for whatever it is. All of those are kind of viable. I don't like rules in general.
Yeah, so sure. Most marketers say that templates do not work, and what they mean by that is that most people try to use the same kind of words and stuff like that. So you should not use the same kind of words and stuff like that. But you should have a format that your audience should be used to, and whenever they just open your email, they know, okay, exactly. Here's the value. Here's the word. Like, here's the strategy. Here's the value. Here's blah blah blah, here's blah blah blah, here's the link, and everything like that, right? Because it just helps them read so fast. It just helps them like not think and just know where the value is and identify it and just get it, right? And just consume it. So that's the first part. The other thing is that the format, if you do not know how to format your emails, you can just feed the type of email that you think it got the most opens, or the most replies, or the most sales, or the most clicks on to your offer. You can just feed it to AI like ChatGPT or Cloud or whatever you're using as AI. You can just feed it to AI, and then it will give you the format, and that format you'll be using it for all your emails. So it's easy. It helps with your audience to like understand exactly how your emails are formatted, and yeah, the speed is very well. It just makes them not to think and just consume your email, right?
The fundamentals are always going to be to reward for every step in the process. So because I can provide value to you in under a minute, I'll also tell you what this tactic was. So speed to contact. So I believe in this so much, I almost started a fund of buying businesses just to implement this one tactic. So it's simple to understand. It's hard to do, but if you can do it in a few minutes. So you call leads within 60 seconds of opting in. So Harvard Business Review published a study that demonstrated an average of 391% increase in sales. 391% increase in sales. So let me ask you this. Right now, is there anything else that you have on your docket that could quadruple the sales of your business? No? Well, then that would basically mean that calling leads fast should be the first priority that you have, because it could quadruple your sales. Because if there's nothing else that can do it, then that should be the priority of the business. And if you're like, man, I don't have the sales staff to be able to have that kind of coverage, well, you can afford that sales staff with the 391% increase in sales that you're gonna get as a result. I love tactics like this that are just massive unlocks in businesses, and that's the type of stuff that we go over in our scaling workshops, which is why that was the CTA. Next tactical nugget. So optimize preview text. So this is one that I actually learned more recently for our stuff, so maybe embarrassing, whatever. Optimizing preview text for the email. So you know when you look at all of your emails, you see the bold subject, and then after that you've got like that little bit of text afterwards. That little bit of text is kind of like when you hover on a YouTube video and it shows you a couple of clips, it's preview, right? And so that preview has a big impact on how many people choose to open the email. And so right now it has, for us, had an increase of 24%. And just to give you an idea here, 24% of people, so 1 out of 4 people, check that text before they even open. And so that's what they reported. I would bet it's even higher than that. It takes 10 seconds to do this and is so worth it, because if you don't, then it'll just take the first 150 characters of your email, which might have just been like, hey John, blah, blah, blah. Like it's not valuable, right? And so we want to pull the most valuable nuggets forward, especially things that induce curiosity. Next tactical nugget, clear CTA. So I'm not going to harp on, like, of course you want to have a reason to do it, and you have a reason to do it now, and tell them exactly what they get. Those are, CTA 101. But I think that having basically a continued interest CTA and then have a I want to take action and buy CTA are not terrible ideas to have in an email. And so I'm not saying, like, I'm not one of these people who's like, only have one link, only have one CTA. I think you can have more than one, but it's more that you only want to have one per audience or per objective. Now, if you have 5, then that can get, kind of aggressive overall, but I think 1 or 2, you're safe, as long as there's a clear reason that someone would click one versus the other. All right, let's rock another one. So Mozi Money Minute. So easy 21% profit increase for recurring businesses. So boom, reinforce. If you grow your business without fixing your problems, you grow your problems instead. Eek. All right, so annual renewal fees. So this works for any business, recurring or reoccurring, but especially recurring, obviously. So if you have a membership or recurring revenue model and keep people over a year, this is a great profit tactic that adds a ton of revenue. So it's a one-time annual fee on top of your monthly. So it doesn't interfere with front-end sales because it happens a year later. So it's not immediate. So people don't not sign up because of this fee. And if someone stays a year, they're also very unlikely to leave. And so the fee is usually the price of about 1 to 3 months. And by adding it in, you add 8 to 24% to your revenue without incurring any cost. So if you have call it a 20% margin business, and you add another 20% to revenue with no added cost, you double the profit of the business from one thing, which is by adding an annual renewal fee in. And so this allows you to keep your advertised pricing, because that's what influences your conversions, whatever your monthly price is, but then also get the benefit of having of the profit of basically a price that's about 8-ish to 25% more than your current in terms of annualized. And so, for example, if I charge $39 a month, I might make my annual renewal $99. So that's 2 months. This takes my annual revenue per customer from $468 to $567. It's a 21% increase. And so it makes my effective monthly rate $47 per month. So look at the difference here. But if I had it at $47, I might convert significantly fewer customers. And so this kind of blends the benefits of a lower cost up front, but gets the benefits of the higher price. And that's why it's such a cool tactic. Very effective if you use it well. So again, CTA, and then this one was a funny one, where the other ones were more tactical. This one is like, hey, here's how it's just a funny meme. So in the spirit of PS statements, if you like these types of tactics and want 60-second things that you can immediately use to make more money in your business, you can just go to acquisition.com/newsletter, and you can opt in there, and I'll just keep sending you this stuff twice a week, which actually brings me up to the next point before I get to the next email, which is how often should you send email and to whom should you send it? Big picture, after talking to the best email marketers I knew before deciding to start my newsletter, number one is the perfect cadence seems to be around 3 times a week. All right, now again, I don't like rules, and if you hate rules as much as I do, then nothing is a rule. All right, you could send 2, you could send 1, whatever. But most people found that basically the more often you email, the more you will convert. It's kind of like more content, but there is a spot where people are like, I'm getting bothered. But the thing is that's where I feel like putting more effort into making the emails high quality pays dividends. Because think about it like this. If you send someone stuff that always makes them money, then how much would they like you to send them? Tons. And so that's why I'm a big fan of, like, I don't really have promotional emails per se. I'd rather just have every email be valuable and then just say like, hey, if you found this valuable, you can go here. And that way I don't have to balance like what's my give ask ratio or anything like that. It's like, I'm just gonna only purely provide value here, just like content. And if you want to take next steps towards doing or working with us or something like that, then you click the link that's made easily and available to you. So to me, I see like just having your link or like what you do or whatever your lead magnet is in there is kind of like having your link in bio. So like, if they want to find out more, you just make it easy for them. So cadence-wise, if you haven't started yet, start with once a month and then you can move on. But I will say this, and this is the thing that broke the barrier for me, is that I actually was like, okay, how many emails do I want to send? And so I said, okay, I will commit to twice a month. And so I actually sat down and wrote 24 emails, and it took me like half a day. And then I thought, well, shoot, I could have been doing this off a half day's work. I could have been emailing my whole list for a year. And so after I saw how, I don't want to say easy it was, but how I could do it, I then decided to commit to doing it, and now we do significantly more than that. But that was kind of like if you just write 12 emails, then you're like, cool, I've actually written all my emails for the year, and then everything else on top of that's bonus. And the reason I'm even making this video, because it's not typical for me to talk about something that I haven't done for an extended period of time. But I had such a positive response from Mozi Nation, from the Mozi Money Minute, that I thought I would make this video for you, because honestly, like, this is I would say honestly, one of the biggest mistakes I made in my career was I waited so long to email. And actually almost all my businesses, like Gym Launch, I didn't email until like 2 or 3 years in, which is insane. It's just saying no to money. And I should have just done it. It was just the amount of effort that it took. I didn't want to add something else to my plate because I was always so spread thin. But now that I understand how much the return for email per unit of effort, it's totally worth it. And I'll give you a side note, like, we didn't do any email follow-up on school for a different reason. We had some technical stuff because we wanted to do it through the platform. And then as soon as we started doing email follow-up, we got a 40% lift in conversion. So it's like, dear God, like, what else is going to get you that kind of lift? And again, it's free. Strongly recommend doing it. Start with once a month. Get them all, just block them all out and be like, okay, I've got that done. And then every time you feel like motivated to do one, you can just add on top, and it's just gravy, it's bonus. I personally also don't like committing to a cadence. I don't really commit anywhere to a cadence. I never want to feel like I have to make something, because then whenever I have to make it, it's not as good as I want it to be. And so I'd rather just have a quality threshold that if I've got 2 good ones in me, then 2 is what's gonna go out. If I've got 4 in me, 4 is what's gonna go out. But if I've got 0, it's 0. Let's talk about tactical nuggies, which is the actual stuff inside of the email. And so we want email, if you think about the hypothetical ideal email, it should be one that looks like emails that you would exchange every day. And so oftentimes emails that you exchange every day are pretty much all text, a handful of sentences, and then that's about it. Maybe a link, maybe not a link. There's usually not a lot of images. And so we want our emails to approximate that as closely as possible, because the equal opposite of that is that it looks like the Vegas Strip inside of the email, right? That looks like 100% promotion, which then the algorithm, AI is pretty smart nowadays. They're like, oh, this is just promotion. And so that they can put it into the promo tab. And so you want it to just look like an email. And so you want it to be as much text as possible. For us, we don't send images. And if you do have the link, you've got 1, maybe 2 links in there max. And we've also noticed that if we put more money stuff in an email, it tends to get a higher percentage in the promo tab. And so I try to remove money language from the text itself to increase the likelihood it gets in the right place. If you're like, why do I even bother making it only plain text? Why do I even bother only limiting the number of links? Why do I bother having less money in the title? Why do I even bother asking them to reply? Why don't I just send it to them automatically for whatever the lead magnet is? Well, I'll tell you why. Right now, for B2B, 16.9% of marketing emails don't even get into the inbox, let alone promo tab. They don't even make it. And so that's because of your domain authority. And so basically, you have a reputation with the email servers on how good or how high quality the emails that you send are. And so by doing these steps, it's kind of like 100 golden BBs. There's no one silver bullet that solves all this stuff. It's just consistently providing emails that people engage with, and that they do click, and that they do open, that they do read. Those are all indications that the stuff that you're sending is high quality, and that it's improving their overall email experience. And so just like every other platform, I will make this very strong statement, which is, don't try and figure out hacks. Try and simply align what you do with the objective of the platform. The objective of an email provider is that they provide the highest quality email experience and sift out the fewest important emails, because think about a terrible experience. If someone's like, hey, I sent you this email, and I'm like, I didn't get it. And they're like, yeah, I sent it. And then I look and I'm like, Google is taking all these important emails. I might consider switching servers. I would say that's the worst thing that can happen. So that's why they will let emails through. The equal opposite of that, the false negatives, is when I'm like, man, the filter on this spam is so weak. I'm just getting all these spam emails constantly. Now, that'd be less likely than the first scenario, but still an increase in likelihood that I might consider switching email providers. And let me give you a 201 advanced tactic. If you want an even higher click-through rate and deliverability rate, make the link something that's Google native. And so if I want to send a YouTube link, then that'll probably have a higher deliverability. If I want to send a sales letter, I can have it be accessed in Google Drive, because they understand what the file.
And really quick, if you want me to review your emails, your email system, and just to prevent them from going into spam, or if they're going into spam right now, to remove them from spam and just make sure that they target the inbox and enter in the inbox so you can get more sales, book a call with me down in the description and I will help you do that, right? If you want me to also review your emails, just book a call with me. It's free, okay? It's a free 15 minutes audit, email audit. So we are going to go through what works and what will not work, okay? So yeah.
File is. if I want to send a VSL, I can also have it uploaded to Google Drive. And so sometimes these kind of like hokey, more duct taped look together type assets that you might send, sometimes it actually convert even better. So if you haven't tested it out, worth a shot. Next nugget is A/B testing subject lines. So I told you that I'm trying to build the brand of Mozi Money Minute, and so I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of short-term open rate so that long-term, the audience that becomes hardcore about Mozi Money Minute will just always open the Mozi Money Minute. But even so, the things after Mozi Money Minute will still have an influence on that. And so having an A/B split test for your headline or your subject will test for a small percentage, an A/B, and then once it has the winner, we'll then send the rest of the list the winning combination. And this, more and more platforms are getting intelligent about this, like YouTube does the same thing for thumbnails and headlines, because some of you guys are like, I see you're switching this out. It's like, duh, there's a split test tool. Of course we're gonna split test it. But the same thing works for email. So that's a perfect segue to, okay, well, how do I get people to opt into my list? And so what I wanna do is I'll read you the email that comes in after you opt in. And so one of the things that I do is I like to peel, like when I write my books, I always inevitably write a couple chapters that are really valuable chapters, but they don't flow with the whole book's kind of theme, but they're still really good. And so rather than just like toss them or use them as like a YouTube script, I still finish them and make them book quality, but I just peel them out and say, hey, I'll just give this to you when you opt into my list. And I have other chapters that I've written that, like, when we do our next launch, I'll have those as bonuses for doing it. And so the only people that get them though is the people who are on the list. And so I like to have little bonuses that are platform specific that give people reasons to also be subscribed there. And so it's like, if I could do something like that on YouTube, I would, but I have to do it through a link. So at least on email, I can make something that gives people a reason to sign up beyond just immediately getting tactics that will always make them more money. This one breaks the mold, but I want to walk through why I think this email is important. And so first thing is, I have a little bit of anticipation. I've got a big announcement that's coming, right? And as long as you're subscribed, you're going to find out about it first. On top of that, I deliver on my promise. That's reinforcing them opting in general. And then on top of that, you want them to engage with the email. So there's a couple things here. So when you reply to an email, then remember I said earlier about the promo tab? Well, when someone replies to an email, then you kind of like get reinforced in terms of the algorithm of the server is like, oh, this is something that they're engaged with. And so you want people to engage. And so for us, once you reply yes, then we send you the chapter. So that gives them a reason to do it. And so you can have your opt-in have a widget. When they opt in, explain the value of why they should stay on, not just get the widget, because I think that's just as or more important. If someone opts into your list just to get the lead magnet, then they just want the lead magnet. They don't want regular communication from you. So I want to sell them on regular communication from me. Plus, by the way, here's that thing. And I put that near the end because it's like you have their attention until you give them the immediate reward that was promised, which you obviously have to do. But I would rather say, hey, by the way, here's the other things that you're gonna get that I didn't tell you about. So it's like, I wanna surprise and delight with the stuff that I'm providing them before I give them the other thing that of course I'm gonna provide. It's like you have this tiny, tiny moment where they have huge motivation. And so it's like, you just wanna capitalize on it. And think about everything as reinforcement loops. And so people opted in for this lead magnet. They can get the email by replying yes. Now, I also wanna resell them on doing this. So inside the secret chapter, it reveals things like how to get people to engage with your stuff who otherwise wouldn't. So whenever I get a new market, I almost always start with this. How to make your advertising 9.5 times as profitable. There are 2 things you need to pull this off, and it's on page 5. So putting the extra page is like, oh, this is actually like, it's right in there. The most powerful offer of all time, this will never expire. 5 ways to add hoops that increase lead quality, the 4 ways to display discounts, and there's a lot more. But this is a solid start on how to design a winning acquisition strategy. So inside of here, I have multiple things that I'm sending them, and they just have to reply yes. So it's cool. I've sold you in just these 4 lines on why you should stay subscribed. And then all of this chunk is to get them to reply yes. Because even though they said they wanted it, it's like I really need them to reply yes so that I can seg myself to not the promo tab. And if you play out the alternative scenario, which is that you give a bad lead magnet, or you just immediately send the lead magnet with nothing else, all right, which is both of those are I consider bad scenarios. If you send a good lead magnet but you don't sell them on staying, they'll just immediately unsubscribe or just get the thing and then just never check anything again. The other scenario is that they do follow the steps and then they read the lead magnet and say all of that work wasn't worth it. And that is like the single thing that keeps me up at night. And so I just want to make sure that I always give a positive return on time relative to anything else someone could consume. And so if we're talking about open rates, then the next thing that you're going to want to talk about is click-through rates, because fundamentally you want them to take action. And so a lot of the market of email marketers has actually shifted towards tracking CTR over open rates. And I think the biggest reason for that was because Apple privacy laws made it very difficult to track open rates. And so I'll give you what our stats are just as maybe a benchmark. So for us over the last 3 months, our average open rate is just under 36%, so it's 35.7. And our average CTR is 8.5. So we have a very strong CTR. So I don't know how accurate the open rate stat that I just shared is. I just know that that's what we get reporting back on. But CTRs we feel very confident on. That CTR typically will get parsed between two things. One is percentage of all people you sent it to who took action or clicked, and then also percentage of people who opened who clicked. So it's like, okay, so if I had 100,000 people and I got 30,000 to open my email and I got 10,000 to click, then it would show a 33% of people who opened clicked, but overall I would have a 10% of the 100,000, 10,000 who actually clicked and took the next step. And so for us, because it's 8.5, it'd be 8,500 for every 100,000 that we send, which is pretty crazy. It's pretty good. And so that is what I would be optimizing all my effort for. But I'd be optimizing that over a longer period. So think about it less about each email, but think about what my overall CTR is for my emails in general. Because there are some emails that you're like, you don't need to make the quote click ask as hard, but we want to balance that over time. So we're kind of like depositing before we withdraw a little bit. I'm gonna give you 3 timing tactics around emails. These are all just golden BBs, things that'll just give you tiny little lifts in terms of your overall performance. And so if you're sending, let's say 1 email a week, then you might as well maximize the likelihood and effectiveness of that email. And so if you're B2C, it seems like Mondays and Tuesdays tend to be better days overall. And so there's an average increase in open rate of about 18% for B2C, so business consumer. Now if you're B2B, this is kind of interesting, it's Wednesday. That's actually the bigger lift day. And actually it's about comparable to the B2C lift. So I see that as like, there's just a time period for more people that consumers are more distracted, call it, on Mondays and Tuesdays, whereas business people, B2B, are like working Mondays and Tuesdays. Like they get to catch their breath on Wednesday. Now I could just be adding a narrative to this, who knows? But fundamentally the stats are there, and this is across zillions of emails. I got that from Neil Patel. He's an awesome marketer. And so he shared that with me in terms of days. The last tactic is around what time of day. So that was days of week, but the next is time of day. And so it seems like there's 2 sweet spots that occur. And one is basically right before lunch and right after lunch. So it's like 10 to noon and then 1 to 3 are the kind of like these sweet spots where they open. The first thing in the morning I think is typically a very competitive time because there's so many actual real business emails that they're going through that they're like, well, I gotta deal with this stuff first. If you kind of slide in those times, you tend to see bigger improvements. Now, that'll be more specific for businesses that are local. When you're across time zones, I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it. For us, we do all of our stuff off PST, but I know that I've got a 3-hour window if I'm just looking at US, and if half my audience is international, which it is, that's gonna be more relevant for the people who only transact in one time zone. So with that being said, let's look at this puppy. So this email did exceptionally well. This is Mosey Money Minute about testimonials that convert. And so the perspective, rich people buy time, poor people buy stuff, ambitious people buy skills, lazy people buy distraction. And so I put that one in there because for the week, it was a super high performer in terms of tweets. And this email also got it's so funny because I got so many tags of people screenshotting my email and putting that on their story, which amazing, right? Because normally email lists only grow from you driving it. But how amazing would it be if your email list itself brought other people in, right? And that's, at least for me, that's my goal. So the actual tactical nugget, I'll give it to you right now. So turning testimonials into ads is very profitable, but often very tough. So it's like, cool, there's a problem, right? And so the main reason is people suck at making testimonials. After reviewing all the testimonials and what separated the best from the rest, there was one thing the top 4 all had in common, which was a pain-based hook. And so these were my top 4 hooks of all time. This was just for Gym Launch specifically. So I looked over 2,500 testimonials. And so these are the top 4 hooks. So we were 2 months away from shutting our doors. We were barely making enough to survive. So this is different ads. I paid payroll, rent, and I'd finish the month with $0 of profit. I pay all my expenses every month, work all day, and end up with $0 of profit. So kind of interesting that there's 2 $0 of profit in the top 4 of all time. Different guys. There was no script there. Like that's like my marketer had's like interesting. Zero. They both said $0 of profit, which I find fascinating. If those hooks, and the hook is one of the most important parts of any ad, then we should obsess about what the testimonial hooks are so we can get more people to watch them. And so then it's like, okay, so the next time you record a testimonial or ask for one, don't ask them how life was before they started working with you, because they're gonna give you this very long story. It's gonna be hard to find a really good hook. So instead, just ask them for their worst moment. Just say, what was the worst moment? Because that's what all of these were, is a moment. And so the moments are what makes hooks. The details are what make them powerful. And so it wasn't just like, oh, we were struggling. It says we were barely making enough to survive. We were 2 months away from shutting our doors. Like that's much more visceral than stuff was hard, right? And so then of course we have our CTA per usual. And one of the things that I've learned with CTAs across content, including email, is a lot of people do the same copy paste CTA, or I even see YouTubers like take their mini ads and just like slice them in. They're wearing a different shirt or it's a different energy or whatever. I think that's a huge mistake. It's like if you think about the reason that you make stuff, it's to increase the likelihood that people convert in the future or to convert them now. And so if you want to increase the likelihood that they convert, then why wouldn't you just take, like, if that's the most important part, short term, not long term, then why wouldn't you take the extra, minute or 30 minutes even to just like make it contextual? And so big picture, same format, boom, reward them for opening, boom, reward them for reading, add your CTA in the middle, make it contextual. And if you do that even once a month, you won't make less money.
Okay, so for the CTA, yes, you can use testimonials and stuff like that. It can also work better. It works better, but also as how he did it by using the numbers and stuff like that, he just created some instant kind of authority. So it helped him convert better, and it helped him convert more. So you can also do the same, right? So that's it for this video. That was all the principles, the strategy, the execution. You saw everything. And I hope you enjoyed this video. So hit the like button if you liked it, subscribe to get more videos just like this one for me. And yeah, if you want a review, if you're a business owner, coach and consultant, you want review, if you want me to audit your email system, your email strategy, book a call with me down below, or hit me up on Instagram and let me know what the problem is, and then we will solve, or we will go through your email strategy, go through your email system for you. Okay, so you can get more sales. So that's it. Hope you found value. See you in the next video. Peace.